How do we approach having conversations about self-harm? It's normal to feel concerned about speaking to children and young people about self-harm. We may worry about saying something which makes things worse or of harming our relationship with them. We may also blame ourselves for not having seen any early warning signs. We may feel we could have done more to prevent the child or young person from harming themselves in the first place. So here are some key steps to take when having important conversations with someone who may be self-harming. Start by thinking about when and where to approach having a conversation. Choose a time when the situation at home or school is less stressful and a place which is private, when you are less likely to be interrupted. If you're a parent seeking to have a conversation with your child, remember that their bedroom is likely to be a space which meets their need for privacy and control. They may feel that an attempt to start a difficult conversation is an invasion of privacy which they have no control over. Also, if their bedroom is where self-harming behaviour has taken place, conversations about this may trigger uncomfortable feelings and thoughts. So instead, you might suggest a more neutral space, like the kitchen or living room, so long as you're free from interruptions, or perhaps suggest going for a walk somewhere calm, like a park. If you are a teacher or other professional working in a school or club, you might try to find a space which is not a classroom, with comfortable seating and where you won't be interrupted, and where the child or young person can speak confidentially. You might also suggest switching off mobile phones or other potential distractions, remembering to enable the child or young person to choose. If you're going to have a conversation which is potentially distressing, walking can help to lower distress because exercise burns off stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. When you're ready to have a difficult conversation, a useful acronym to follow is Regar. Regar stands for rapport building, information gathering, goal setting, accessing resources, agreeing a strategy, and review. Rapport is the connection we need to make before trying to bring up a subject like self-harm. To build rapport, we might start by making small talk, asking them about school, hobbies, interests, or what they're planning to do with free time at the weekend or on school breaks. Demonstrate that you're listening by asking questions which follow up on what they've said, or by feeding back your understanding of what they've told you. For example, if they tell you they cannot wait for the school holidays, you might ask them what they are looking forward to. Or if they tell you that they struggle with a school subject, you might normalise how they feel by saying something like, "Many people find that subject a challenge," or ask them what they find most challenging about it. Or if they're having a difficult time with friends or relationships, we can normalise this by saying something like, "Relationships and friendships can go through difficult phases." Or if they tell you they are enjoying an activity, like online gaming, you might ask them what they like about it and why. It's important to take your time to build rapport with the child or young person, and avoid trying to give advice too early on or jumping in with solutions for any problems they raise or difficult feelings they may disclose. When you are both speaking openly and contributing equally to the conversation, this is a good sign that you have established rapport. This allows you to raise the subject of self-harm. You might introduce the subject by saying something like, "It may be difficult, but can we talk about the self-harming?" Notice that this question describes self-harming as the self-harming and avoids asking, "Can we talk about your self-harming, you self-harming, or why you self-harm?" Instead, by using the word "the," we avoid blaming the child or young person or identifying them with the self-harming behaviour and any feelings of shame or guilt they may have. What about if the child or young person doesn't want to talk about self-harm and says no or doesn't respond at all? You can still seek to maintain rapport and leave the door open to talking about it, should they change their mind. You might do this by saying something like, I understand and respect you don't yet wish to talk about it. If you change your mind, I'm always here to listen. Or, I might not be the right person to talk to, but tell me if we can support you to find the right person. Children and young people may also seek to communicate in ways which feel safer and give them a greater sense of control. For example, they may prefer to communicate by text messaging, especially if they feel less confident about their face-to-face social skills. They may also communicate how they are feeling through drawing pictures or creating images which represent how they feel and leaving them in places where you can see them. These pictures and images may depict self-harm or other gloomy themes, which can cause us to feel concerned. It's important to notice our feelings of concern and take time out to calm ourselves down. We can also recognise that our needs to feel our children are safe and that we are in control may be affected. But we should not let difficult feelings prevent us from communicating back. We might do this by commenting that we have noticed their pictures and how much creativity, thought, and effort they have put into them. This helps to build rapport and acknowledge their abilities without dismissing how they might be feeling. We can then ask if they would like to talk about the content of the pictures by asking what it means to them. If the child or young person agrees to discuss self-harming, you are ready to move on to information gathering. Information gathering involves asking questions about a child or young person's concerns, listening out for unmet emotional needs, and finding out what they think would be helpful. At the same time, we want to maintain rapport and express empathy for their concerns and any distress, while still resisting the temptation to offer advice or suggest solutions, at least for now. Useful questions to ask might include: how do you feel about the self-harming? Have you spoken to anyone about how you feel? Are there worries or concerns which lead to the self-harming? What do you find helps the most to deal with difficult feelings? If the child or young person seems comfortable answering these questions, you can gather information about keeping safe in an emergency or after an episode of self-harming. You can then ask questions like, can we talk about what to do in an emergency? Do you feel able to disinfect and bandage wounds? Have the wounds ever become infected? Would it be useful to visit the doctor or learn more about how to stay safe? Once you feel that you have enough concrete information about the child or young person's concerns, it is always a good idea to agree a goal as the next step. Goal setting involves asking the young person what they would like to do and what they feel would help to meet their needs. If we are led by what the child or young person feels is most helpful, they are more likely to be motivated to achieve the goal. Goals might include speaking to a GP or another professional, getting more control over difficult feelings and emotions, reducing the risk of an infection or an accident, taking steps to resolve relationship problems at home or at school, addressing problems which are causing them to feel unsafe or out of control, such as exam stress or bullying. The next stage in Regar is accessing resources. To give them the best chance of achieving the goal, we need to make sure they have the resources to do so. As well as suggesting resources they might access, we should ask them what they find useful. Resources we might suggest or ask about include sources of support they can access, such as school counselling or psychologists, and NHS mental health services. Information presented in child-friendly formats about how to address self-harm, including contact numbers for services. Alternative coping strategies for handling distressing feelings, like 7-11 breathing or going for a walk. Any friendships they have which support meeting needs in healthy ways. Having access to clean bandages and knowing how to sterilise wounds. How to call for help in an emergency. Things they can do for fun or to take their attention away from concerns and worries. Activities, hobbies, or interests which lift their confidence and give them a sense of hope that they can achieve goals. We then need to agree the strategy for achieving the goal and how it will draw upon the resources we have identified. So, if the goal is to speak to a GP, the agreed strategy might be to call the surgery and ask for an appointment at a time when the child or young person is able to attend. The strategy could also include for them to be accompanied by you or another person they feel comfortable with. If the goal is to get more control over difficult feelings and emotions, the agreed strategy might be to find out about techniques like 7-11 breathing and to agree regular times to practice the technique and identify a quiet place where the child or young person can do so. A good strategy will describe how something will be done, when it will be done, and how often and where it will be done. This will meet the need to feel in control and help everyone to feel calmer. Finally, review. Once a goal and any resources needed have been identified, and you have agreed a clear step-by-step strategy to achieve the goal, it's a good idea to review what has been discussed. This only needs to be a simple summary of what has been discussed to check that you have understood the concerns and goals of the child or young person. By planning the time and place and following Regar, you should be able to approach having conversations about self-harm, feeling calmer and more confident.